Good afternoon, everybody. Hi, welcome to this session in the Retrofit seminar program. This is focused on innovation, the existing cutting edge and what's needed to industrialise retrofit. So it's a really fantastic lineup of speakers. We've got some really, frankly, very cool stuff, shall we say. My name is David Pierpoint, not David Adams, just in case you were wondering. David Adams has a poorly Dalmatian, apparently, and can't make it today. So I've stepped in at the last minute a little bit blind, so don't expect me to be interesting, but I will try and facilitate a good discussion. This, of course, is a massive topic of interest because this is the year that retrofit's really starting to scale. We're going to see a lot of social housing programs, a lot of local authority-led programs. We've been delivering better retrofit in recent years, and now it's time to really start to industrialise the innovation and the processes and everything else that's required to start making a dent in that horrible 27 million number that we've been talking about for about 10 years now. So to address those sorts of issues, we've got 4 speakers who are going to give relatively short presentations, and then we've got plenty of time at the end for questions from the floor. And the order in which we're going to have Charlie Cooley from Novus Property Services Solutions, one of the other services, I think. Andy Merrin from United Living, Nik Flytzanis from Plentific, and Justine Prain from Energiesprong UK. So we'll get straight on with it with Charlie.
Good afternoon all. So obviously I want to kind of talk about the retrofit challenge and what we need to do to industrialise retrofit. So talk about 3 key challenges for me. So kind of around about supply chain availability for both PAS 2030 and PAS 2035. So we'll talk about education, installation and ventilation, but obviously the PAS 2030 Trustmark registration installers for every funded measure, which is what we need to be doing under retrofit. The challenge is round about materials, skills, and then the data management piece as well, which is kind of quite significant as well. So it's making sure we don't have currently the right level of supply chain or materials and relevant skills. And we've got demand at the minute that's really kind of pushing in a big challenge for us. With having to upscale what we're doing with 1.8 homes every minute in the UK, it's a significant challenge to achieve kind of net zero. So currently there are not enough, I don't believe, enough Trustmark PAS 2030 approved contractors kind of registered on the database to get anywhere near that sort of number. So large scale training and upskilling certainly required in all aspects of PAS. So that's from the assessors to the coordinators right through to the designers as well. So some of the challenges I said I would focus on education. So kind of poor data, that's what we're kind of finding in regards to the inaccurate EPCs. So we understand that investment decisions are linked to these EPCs that we're kind of making, so we're going for levels of funding as well. So to help achieve the targets, we need to be better informed round about the information that we have. There needs to be obviously kind of consideration round about customers and kind of how they use it in the home and practice. So it's not about retrofitting them, it's getting them on that journey, and the whole bit round about PAS 2030 advisors is a big part of that as well. So, but certainly for me there's a kind of lack of understanding round about PAS and its roles kind of within retrofit as well, and the kind of conversations that I'm kind of having on a daily basis with clients as well. Some of them are still waiting to see what other people are going to be doing. So there's still, for me, massive steps in the kind of journey. There's obviously a kind of burden round about admin and the complexities and challenges round about some of the forms that we have. As I said, EPCs are only kind of one data point. For us in some of the work that we've done, like working with our retrofit partners, we've done over 5,000 lodgements, and only a small percentage of that EPC data was accurate. And as I say, it's what we're using to kind of inform stakeholders and draw down funding as well. So it's kind of key. The data is kind of quite interesting. Also kind of seeing some of the other halls that we have over there. There's a data conference. Data is a big part of what we need to do. in order to kind of get retrofit right, understanding at the beginning and the monitoring piece at the end as well. So, but it's obviously kind of making sure that kind of what needs to be done, and it's a compliant approach round about it as well. So making sure customers are at the kind of heart of what we do, putting tenants and residents first. Obviously what we're finding now is, probably as a result of COVID, that there's more tenants and residents spending time in their home, so it's a big impact in kind of the conditions of the property as well. So, but certainly, like for me, there needs to be kind of levels of assurance. Like pilots are great, but we need to kind of take the shared learning and quickly increase the volume as well. I listened to kind of the session that was on earlier on, that for me there certainly needs to be a lot more kind of collaboration and kind of sharing the best practice where we get it wrong, because we need to get over the stage of doing the pilots if we're really going to look to increase the kind of numbers that we're kind of looking to do as well. Sat earlier this week in regards to kind of lessons learned round about Wave 2 funding, and for me there's a big part kind of round about asset management and strategy and kind of what people have got in place. So we need to ensure that we've got good asset information round about the stock that we're doing. And I think for me some of the challenges round about the kind of planning period. So we need to take the learns and repeat the successes. We've got to get that process a lot quicker. So, but yeah, I think even just kind of listening today that everything every day, it's just an education. So challenges round about the installation. So managing expectations. So making sure that we achieve that detailed design phase as well. Because what we kind of find is, as much as we'll go and kind of have a look and understand kind of what the primary measures are, the designs are critical, because it's not a one-size-fits-all, so it's ensuring that it's not done on an archetype basis, that we understand every property and its own merits as well. So designs are obviously kind of critical to that. For me, that there needs to be a kind of integration round about the decision making between asset, environmental and wellbeing teams within organisations and associations. So some of the other challenges I see round about the installation is when we get to the project kind of mobilisation, there's additional surveys and additional information and enabling measures that need to get done outside of just kind of what the measure is. So for me, it's kind of knowing and understanding the condition of the stock, that we've got good stock condition information as well, because that kind of leads, it makes it a lot kind of simpler, the process, than when we start getting to the installation piece. So for me, obviously, any measures that we install, that we've got that evaluation and we're taking customers on that journey with us as well. So we've got obviously challenges round about materials within the installation sector as well. So fluctuations of cost and sources, so economy of scale. I think certainly in the current climate, I mean, what we used to kind of charge or deliver for EWI, it's significantly different now. So there's obviously lots of kind of cost pressures, but for me, that everybody needs to kind of, all homes need to go on a journey. It's not just, we can't just be focusing on what we need to do to get to level C. We need to be focused on what we need to do to get to net zero, and making sure all homes go on that journey as well. So really important. The last piece for me is round about the ventilation. Ensuring that kind of the measures that we do put in, that there's no unintended consequences, that we don't create other risks when we start to wrap properties and they start to sweat as well. And for me, that it's great to see kind of some of the stands that we've got round about as well, round about Internet of Things and intelligence-based products, which will kind of help that monitoring piece as well. So say data is a big part of kind of what we need to do. We need to collect information, understand what's performing, both before we start the works, during and after the works as well. So it's really important that we kind of provide and maintain good air quality, both and within the property as well. So obviously kind of what we're seeing is kind of damp and mould kind of issues, that when we start to, either before or after we've kind of done some measures. So that bit for me around about assurance of property MOTs, that we're kind of doing that, we're continuing to monitor the property as well. So it's obviously kind of key. But certainly kind of during the work, some of the kind of interfaces round about the junctions, thermal bridging, air tightness tests, as well as, and a kind of big part of it as well is, once the kind of measures are done, for me, it's the education piece round about ensuring that the resident, the customer knows kind of what they're doing. We're fitting lots of technology. Some customers don't know or understand, or they switch it off. So whether it's kind of around about fans or we've got other obviously kind of pieces of equipment, it's really, really important that the pieces of equipment are maintained, that we're getting the data, because it will tell us kind of what we've done if it's starting to have an improvement within the stock as well. Right. Yes.
So just 1 second. I'll just thank you. I think that sets the scene brilliantly for what needs to happen. And I guess the question now is, how do we do that? We're going to focus in the next 3 presentations about things that are happening, particularly technologies, and sort of might address some of those issues. First, we're going to hear from Andy Merrin. Now, I've known Andy for many years now. Andy's learned all the painful lessons along the retrofit journey that you've been on, that he's happy to share with you today. So take notes. There's a lot of good stuff in here. Andy.
Hi everybody. I've only got 8 minutes, so I'm not sure I'll get through all my lessons in 8 minutes, but I'll get through some of them. So to pick up on some of the points that Charlie was talking about, so lots of challenges, and most of those challenges relate to the fact of the size of the challenge ahead, the volume of work that needs to be implemented over the next few years, over the next 10, 20, 30 years. We're talking about 29 million or so homes that need some sort of intervention to help it along its journey towards net zero. So every one of those properties is going to need something, whether it's loft insulation, whether it's going to need a whole house retrofit. And we simply can't do it the same way we've always been doing it, because the market can't cope. We're already struggling, and we're already just started on that journey. So we need people. I'm hoping there's a few in the audience that are keen to get involved in the retrofit sector, and I've got a great idea. So we need more people to come to us to talk about our fantastic idea. This is what we think we can do. We're going to do it differently. We're going to do it cheaper. We're going to do it quicker. We're going to do it better quality control. So please shout. I'm more than happy to help people along the journey. So in terms of that journey, excuse the graphic, I thought it was the best way of showing a journey on the retrofit net zero journey. So, and it probably covers some of the stuff that Charlie talked about, but every step of that way, and there's probably others I've missed off, every step of that way needs some innovation, some new thinking brought to the table, a different way of doing it. As I say, it needs to be done quicker. The sheer volume of doing surveys, about doing assessments, about doing installation and design, the sheer volume that needs to be done, we need to change the way we do it. We need to be more quicker, more efficient, and we've got all those challenges we've got faced that Charlie outlined, of past compliance, all those issues around how we do it correctly, because we shouldn't be avoiding that, but we also need to speed the process up. So strategy-wise, the stock data out there, we know it's not good. And if we start off on the wrong foot, and we go off on the wrong tangent, then we're heading for a failure straight away. So we need to improve the data we've got. How can we do that before we get to the retrofit assessment stage? How can we get out there surveying hundreds of thousands of properties to get the relevant data that we need to make strategic decisions about the investment we need, about the journey we need to go on, and about the targets we need to achieve? The assessment side, I know there's lots of people here in the comments today about looking at software, about improving the process, about getting better, about achieving compliance. Probably still needs more people to come to the table. There's probably 4 or 5 good software companies out there that are doing it. Probably need more people to come to the table to say, we think we can do it a better way, again, cheaper, quicker. Designers, architects, I know we're working with some architects now that are looking at different ways to improve the process of putting designs forward. Digital twins, building passports. How can we improve that journey of information that goes from start to finish, so we can pass it on to everybody else in that journey, and we keep that golden thread of truth around the net zero journey. Installation, how can we get better at installing measures? We do things the same the last few years, we can't do it the same way, so whether that's windows, doors, external wall insulation, we need to do it quicker, we need to do it better, we need to do it more efficiently. And post-occupancy, again, there's lots of people out there working in the post-occupancy market, monitoring, maintenance. How can we get better about using that data we're going to get, because we're going to be inundated with data after we've done a lot of these retrofits. What are we going to do with that data? How can we help our clients better around the strategies they're putting in place to be better informed about the decisions they're going to make? So I'm going to talk to you about 2 initiatives that we're working with, 2 startups that we're really keen to push forward. So if we go back to that strategy stage I mentioned, before we get to a retrofit assessment, we need to get better at the data we've got out there. So how can we survey thousands of properties quickly and get the right data for our clients to then base a strategic investment strategy that makes sense to get them to net zero, that allows them to do it as business as usual, that allows them to make some really good, sound decisions. So Kestrix is a software as a service solution. They're out there doing drone surveys, and I'm going to point to the two people in the middle of the audience. So we've got Lucy and Matt in the audience. They're a startup. They've only just started. They've got some investment through seed investment at the moment. So they're just starting up now. I think it's a really good initiative to start focusing on. I'm going to try and help them out to try and give them some stock to look at, but really keen to see how they can develop that solution. So thermal imaging, AR, AI software, drone surveys. How can we pick up key characteristics in properties that will help us both price for survey, for retrofit works, but also inform our clients? How can they make better decisions based on the stock data they've got? Because we all know it isn't great. As Charlie said, EPC data is what we rely on. EPC data is typically pretty poor. So if you do want to talk to Lucy, Matt afterwards, please give them a shout out. The email addresses on the sheet. They're looking for more clients to talk to. They want more, obviously, properties to look at. So please give us a shout. Do you want to add anything to that quickly? You're out of time, obviously.
Out of time. Anyway, wow. Pleasure to meet you all. Thanks.
Sorry about so the second one is Wunderhaus. Again, two chaps at the back, Adam and Max. Another startup looking at off-site solutions for the EWI sector. So how can we insulate properties quicker, cheaper, more efficiently, and compete with the EWI guys? That's not to say we want to remove them out of the equation, but the market is so big, there's plenty of opportunity for everybody to get involved in this. 29 million homes. I don't know how many solid walls we've got in the UK, probably about 10 million solid wall properties in the UK, so there's plenty to go at for everybody, but we need to do it quicker to get to that net zero point. So what Wunderhaus is about introducing a kit of parts, as it says on the slide, to installers so they can essentially do the install within about 2 days. Typically we take about 10 days now to installate a property because of the different stages we have to go through. So straight away we can see the advantages of turning that around in 2 days. So long journey to go on for those guys. Lots of survey work to be done. Again, we're going to be working with these guys to help them look at some properties to see how quickly you can get to the end solutions. They both started off really relatively soon. We need to keep helping these guys out to move it forward. And also, United Living are just about to introduce their own innovation ecosystem. So in Maple, we're going to launch a new ecosystem into the market. So we want to encourage more people to come to us, like Lucy and Matt and Max and Adam, with ideas around how they can help us, help our clients innovate and improve the way that we're doing things. So watch out for this. The email address is already up and running, so if you've got ideas and you want to submit them, please do so. It comes into the innovation board and we'll assess it and make a decision about how we can move that forward. So really keen, again, to keep more people coming into the market, to keep this innovation going forward. So one last slide for me is around some takeaways for you guys. So anybody that's been involved in innovation knows it is hard. You are going to fail, but you need to embrace those failures and take the lessons learned. Make sure you learn from those failures because you are going to get better, improve your solution. Make sure you surround yourself with lots of experts. I don't like the word experts really, but people with more knowledge than you in the sector. And make sure you're getting sounding boards from people that know and have done it before, because as I say, there's plenty of space for everybody to be involved in this. But as I said right at the beginning, there's a huge amount of opportunity in this sector. It's a massive growth. We've only just started, so lots of opportunity for people to come in with their great ideas, and there may be ideas that hopefully will get stimulated around the conference today and tomorrow. Please give us a shout if you want help in trying to get a soundboard to help you sort of perhaps put some realism around that. But we have to innovate to get to the scale that we need. We can't do it in the same way we've always done it. Thank you.
Innovation is hard, isn't it? And the first few years of it, the innovators we have in the room, I'm sure you've gone through tough times with it, but the market's definitely coming. for those sorts of services, so stick with it. It's what we did at the Retrofit Academy. It wasn't easy to start with, but when you get there, it's well worth the journey. So we're going to hear from Nik now from Plentific, who's going to talk more around the sort of supply chain organisation and connectivity challenges that we have. Nik.
Afternoon, everyone. My name is Nik Flytzanis. If you haven't heard of Plentific, we're a technology provider. So we're Europe's fastest growing prop tech company, and we connect landlords, tenants or residents, housing associations, to a network of contractors through our technology. So we help our clients deliver repairs, maintenance, voids, compliance services, project work or inspections, and we give our contractors access to clients through our technology. So we provide access to our contractors through our technology to clients, and access to clients to our contractors, helping them grow their businesses. So I just wanted to go through some of the numbers. You've probably all seen these already, but we know there's approximately 27 million homes in the UK. 2/3 of these are below EPC C, and many of our clients are focused on some of these quick wins. So how do we get our properties up to EPC C as quickly as possible? But actually, maybe that's losing sight of the bigger challenge, which is net zero by 2050. So I kind of feel like many of us are kicking the can down the road, and I think we really need to think about how actually we're going to deliver the long-term solution, which is net zero. So 80% of our housing stock that will be around in 2050 has already been built. So that means we've got an absolutely huge task ahead of us, and there's a really frightening figure up there. It's going to cost an estimated 1.4 trillion to deliver net zero by 2050. It's absolutely huge. So someone's got to pay for that. We're obviously seeing BEIS coming up with a lot of innovations such as the SHDF to stimulate the retrofit economy, but that's kind of what it is. It's designed to stimulate the economy, not actually solve the solution. So we need to figure out new innovative ways of solving this challenge, and very quickly. And I guess I kind of feel like I'm in the same place 6 months later, talking about exactly the same thing, trying to tell people how really difficult this is going to be, and if we don't act now, we're never going to solve this crisis, and it is a crisis. I don't want to be all doom and gloom, but I'm going to talk about some of the sort of economic uncertainty that we're experiencing that's going to affect this as well. So we all know that we're still seeing the effects of Brexit, COVID. There's an energy crisis, which is in part driven by political uncertainty, the war going on in Ukraine. There's a potentially looming recession coming. Interest rates going up, inflation. We've had industry challenges as well. So we've seen the demonstrator of the SHDF. We've seen wave one. And I'm going to put it out there, demonstrate was pretty much a failure. Most of the money went back. And from what I hear, the wave one is going to be almost the same, with some say over 100 million going back to BEIS, which is pretty frightening. But that means we've really got to prepare for wave two. Everyone's put their bids in now. You're kind of waiting for the money, but you need to start thinking about your supply chain and how you're actually going to deliver your projects, because otherwise you're going to run out of time, and the money will have to go back. And what we're hearing is, there's other pressures that our clients are hearing all of the time. Mentioned damp and mold earlier. A lot of that is like thinking about how we can solve that, or put a band-aid over the cut, instead of actually solving the problem which drives damp and mold in the first place. So finally, I just wanted to mention supply chain issues. Obviously, labour shortages, materials shortages. We've got an ageing workforce. Many of the clients I speak to on a day-to-day basis, they're really struggling to build a DLO, or they're still focused on DLO or that model, but the labour has to come from somewhere. And I think on average, the average age of someone working at a DLO is close to 60, and there's just literally no one joining the labour force anymore. Like, we need to think of new ways of attracting young people to join trades. With an estimated 500,000 workers required to deliver net zero. on a backdrop of a shrinking labour force. So you can imagine why I'm kind of quite passionate about this being a real major problem that we need to solve now. So how can we encourage new entrants to the labour force? How can we make trade sexy again? Yeah, I did say it. Maybe that's creation of green jobs or green certification. I know Trustmart's thinking of that, and the Retrofit Academy are really helping that along the way as well. But what we have learned is many of our clients are really starting to think about this now. So pretty much all the clients I speak to now are thinking about digitalisation. What is their new tech stack? So gone are the days where you had like a monolithic housing platform. Now people realise there's lots of types of innovation, and integration of those platforms is the key. But we're still hearing clients talk about delivering projects via email or Excel. It's just not going to work. So, you can probably get away with that for maybe a dozen projects, so maybe wave 1. But wave 2, when you're talking about 10x that, you're never going to be able to achieve it with spreadsheets and email. You're just not going to be able to cope. So it's great to see that clients are now starting to think about digital platforms that can help them deliver at scale. And I think we need a clear strategy on, meeting the EPC target. The other thing is the cost of living crisis. I think actually this has created a compelling event. So yes, it's really terrible that people are really struggling to heat their homes, but actually it's made the large institutional landlords listen now, and they realise that in order for our residents or their customers to heat their homes, they're going to have to install new systems or think about the fabric or reducing that carbon footprint. And then finally, workforce. So I mentioned this already, but appoint your supply chain in advance of bids, or think about how you can deliver now. I think we need to think about more apprenticeships. I don't hear it a lot when I speak to clients. Like, green jobs need to come from within. How can we encourage young people to join? And I think apprenticeships is the way. We need to encourage more women into trades as well. We have an organisation within Plentific called the Women in Trades Network, and that is literally designed to fund courses for women that want to join trades. Maybe that's one of the ways that we can fulfil the workforce demand. So what are we doing about it? So we believe that the key to executing your retrofit challenges will be a solution that combines the three that I've mentioned. So data. I'm not going to go over some of the content that's been discussed already, but stock analysis, getting your data in the right place. Housing or real estate in general has been typically really terrible with managing data, but it's really important, right? So what we're hoping to do is provide a single source of truth for data. We need to think about technology. So currently we're launching what we're calling the Retrofit Academy. Sorry, I've stolen your company there, David. The Retrofit Centre of Excellence, I mean. So that kicked off on Monday, and Andy came along. It's the first session. It was quite interesting. So we've invited many of our clients from the G15. We've got some tier 1 contractors. We've got some other partners or industry leaders. The idea being we host a range of workshops. We've allocated resource from our tech team, so we've got product managers and project managers allocated to this. We've also got development ring fence for this. And our idea is by the end of the 6 months, and I know it's going to take a while, but it's a big challenge, we're going to be able to deliver an end-to-end solution for this. So a technology platform that can help you scale retrofit using our existing project management tools, and also the supply chain to deliver it as well. So we're working with Trustmark. We've been speaking to Retrofit Academy for quite some time. And that's one of the biggest challenges. So on Plentific, we've got thousands of contractors already doing works for our clients, and they're just crying out to get upskilled or certified to be able to deliver retrofit projects. So we need to think about how we're going to upskill them. One of the ways we're going to be doing that is through the License Plus scheme. Look, really excited about the project. If you've got time, please reach out to me afterwards, and we're still looking for people to be involved in it. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Nick. Fascinating. Look forward to being involved. So, probably the term Energiesprong is probably synonymous with retrofit and innovation. I'd say over the last 7 or 8 years, I think, since certainly it came onto my radar, we think of innovation, you think of off-site construction, you think of doing retrofit in a day or two, your mind turns towards Energiesprong. So you've done some amazing work. I know you've been learning lots of hard lessons yourselves on that journey. So we're going to hear about some of those things and some of the technologies that you've identified that are helping scale up from Justine Prain.
Thanks very much. Justine Prain from Energiesprong. And Energiesprong is an outcomes-based approach to net zero. It's about going to net zero in one go, and it's about having performance guarantees and a business case that works for landlords and that works for residents. And importantly, it's about catalysing innovative and new ways of doing off-site construction. We've come from a world of doing a number of different pilot projects. We sort of had 3 pilot projects starting in 2018, and now we are working as a part of something called the Retrofit Accelerator for Homes Innovation Partnership. There's a panel of solution providers, including United Living, and 7 different landlords that are out there right now delivering these projects on the ground. And what's quite unique, I think, about the Retrofit Innovation Partnership is that it set out to procure a product that didn't exist, which is this net zero in one go performance guaranteed product. And we are currently in it. Basically, it went through 3 phases. It's set to deliver in 3 phases: a prototype phase of smaller numbers of homes, leading on to a pilot phase where we scale up the number of properties and then hopefully drive efficiencies and cost reductions, and then on to what is the scale-up phase. So I think it's worth noting that what I'm going to go through now is some of the innovations that are being deployed and delivered right now in these projects, which is still in very much the prototype phase. So they're new and they're learning. The first one of those, a bit like the sort of kit of parts that Andy showed us, this one's from Ultrapanel, currently being delivered in a project in Barking and Dagenham. And we went to a showcase event last week where we went and saw the homes that are currently under delivery. And what happens here is you get essentially a scan of the property. They create a digital twin. And then in their manufacturing facility, Ultrapanel basically have a background in doing things like cassette roofs. They've now moved on to do the whole house wrap. And they take this digital twin and then they create smaller format panels. So where perhaps in some of our Netherlands examples of Energiesprong, people have seen the example of the whole facade of the property being craned on. This is actually smaller format panels that can be hand lifted on. So that makes it really sort of flexible and versatile, and it's a combination of steel and wood framing and high levels of insulation. So that, happening right now in Barking and Dagenham, the first 3 are due to be completed, the first 3 homes in the next couple of weeks. And then they're going to take the opportunity to go and learn from their experience there, and they roll out up to 20 as a part of this prototype phase. I think many of you have probably seen the image of Nottingham, and that's Melius Homes. I think it was over there on the Areco stand. They had the Nottingham example as well. Melius Homes was very much born out of the first Energiesprong pilots. And they were working with cross-wall properties and creating this whole facade, which is basically manufactured inside a factory facility. I think one of the great sort of anecdotes we had in talking to the Melius team the other day is, they've managed to integrate into their workforce mums with school-age kids who can come in and work a shorter day in the factory in between dropping kids off at school and picking kids up from school. And I think that's a fantastic example. If you think about a building site, would you have that same opportunity for someone to go and do that, it might not necessarily work as well. So Melius, I think, also is a great example of, they've had a pipeline of work that's happened at Nottingham. They've continued beyond just the Energiesprong pilot to carry on into other properties. And they are managing to actually get cost reductions on that journey. So they show that can work. As a part of Retrofit Innovation Partnership, they're currently working with Hammersmith and Fulham. So in the next couple of months, we'll start to see some London-based projects coming through. Ventbox, not currently one that's being delivered as part of the Innovation Partnership demonstrators, but a super interesting concept. We, Bowtie, have worked on Energiesprong projects with something called a Yes Porch, which is very similar to one of the next sort of examples I'll share with you, where they're looking at doing all the kind of integrated air source heat pump, batteries, ventilation. But here they've taken the ventilation system, so the MVHR, and they've said, well, how can we do that in a way that is less disruptive? So rather than running all the ducting inside the house, they've run it on the outside with these sort of flatter shaped tubes that go up the walls, and they're designed to be integrated under external wall insulation. So that shows you what the system looks like. You've got the box on the wall with your tubes going up into the roof, and then sort of simple connection points into your key rooms, and then the insulation will go on over top. So you also don't lose any space in the property. And then the final example that I have is one from a company called Monodraft. And so this is their Home Zero, and this is about an integrated, so all built off-site, and it's integrating all of the MVHR, the air source heat pump, sun amp phase change materials, and the battery, all in one box, which can be basically fitted to the front of the home, just like a porch. And I guess one of the key benefits, as well as being, sort of all integrated and delivered to site as one overall unit with simple connection points, you also have the ability to do any kind of maintenance as the years go on from outside of the building. So that is currently being delivered in some properties in Sutton. So I think one of the key things there is, these are all innovations that are out there now, companies out there now creating these new ways of doing things. They're scaling up, they're doing things in factories, they're using digital innovation, and really from here I think it's just about, what they really need is a pipeline of projects to really do this stuff at scale. Lots that we could talk about, sort of performance. We've got performance reports and all sorts of things, but I think for today the key thing I just wanted to show is some sort of examples of what's coming through in our projects as the innovations.
Okay, thank you very much. They were really, really fascinating presentations. We've got around about 7 minutes, so I'm going to ask straight away for audience questions. Someone would like to put their hand up, the mic will come to you. If you could just say who you are, and particularly if you want to directly question to somebody. Okay, whilst you're being shy, I'll come to you next. Go on then, we'll come to you now.
Hi, Liam Kelly, Allies and Morrison. How do you sort of incentivise retrofit projects to happen first before new build projects? Because I think a lot of people would like to do retrofit projects, but can't see a way to get into that market because people don't want it yet, from a commercial standpoint.
Okay, so lack of demand. You're talking about a lack of demand. Okay, I think we're seeing the opposite. Andy, could I come to you on that?
Is this on? It is.
Yeah.
I would say there was a demand. There is quite a few schemes coming through now. Through the SHCF, through Energiesprong, through other schemes. There's hundreds of properties coming through now. So I'd say there's probably not enough people getting involved at the moment. As I said in my slides, we need more people coming to this market. There's a lot of focus on new build. There's a lot of focus on trying to get to net zero, which we still seem to struggle to do in new build, which still amazes me. But retrofit is an area that's is huge in terms of You know, we produce, what, less than 100,000, 150,000 homes a year. There's 29 million homes to go out in retrofit. I know we're not there yet, but the market is increasing daily. We're seeing opportunities coming through all the time. We're going to get to a point where we're going to have to decline some of the opportunities because we simply just can't deliver everything that's coming to us. So I would say that there is an opportunity for people to get involved, and if you're struggling, you're talking to the wrong people.
Okay, fantastic. Plenty of market. Do we have any other questions? Yeah.
Hi everyone, Lucy Lyons from Kestrix. So there's obviously a lot of talk about bad data and how EPCs are really difficult as data points off which to base retrofit. And with regard specifically to the SHDF process, I'm wondering kind of what the cost is in this process of bad data. So how much time is spent gathering the data for a bid, and then what's really the cost afterwards when it's gotten wrong?
Okay, who's best? Nik, are you well placed to respond to that one?
I'll give it a go. I can't speak to bids because we haven't ever submitted a bid, being a technology company. But I do know that it's particularly bad in the housing sector. It's always been bad. The technology has never been there to do the data analysis, to analyse existing housing stock. EPCs are often out of date. I think the government removed the ability for us to do APIs into EPC data now, which is a bit disappointing. But there are lots of companies out there that are very good at doing the housing stock analysis. Like Parity Projects, for example, work with a lot of our clients. Without the data, though, you're never going to achieve your desired outcome. So I would suggest that having a good stock analysis survey first, making sure you have the right surveyors in place, making sure you have the right tools to capture data. So once you've got the stock analysis, a lot of the time it's desktop exercise. You need to get out there and do the actual validating those assumptions to actually make sure that what your analysis is actually real. And then once you've done the surveys or the inspections, then you should be able to turn that into more of a real project. So.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, just to pick up on that point, what we're kind of seeing the impact of that is that we are, with a client, we're doing SHDF first wave of funding, and when they put their application in, they thought they'd be able to 130 to 150 properties based on EPC data and just some retrofit assessments they'd got carried out. We're lucky if they'd be able to do 90 properties because of the level of information. So they're then going back, and some of the additional work that needs to be done, they're going back to councils looking for additional funding. So where there's an expectation that we're going to be delivering X amount of properties, they're not able to realise that. And a lot of that is kind of down to poor data that they've got at the outset to be able to understand what it is they're going to try and achieve.
Okay, fantastic. Justine, I'm just going to put a quick question to you as a general bit of guidance. I get a sense there's lots of clients and specifiers in the room. How can people be confident that they're going to be backing the winning horses in terms of innovation? How could they get the advice and guidance that they need?
Well, I think when I look at some of the projects that we're doing, one of the really critical pieces, and it ties into what we're saying here, is all of our retrofits are performance guaranteed but also monitored. So actually we're getting data that shows that these properties were designed and that they operate and that the systems operate. So I think the data side of things post-retrofit is as critical as the data side of things pre-retrofit, so that we can have confidence. You can have confidence as landlords, funders can have confidence they're getting the outcomes they require.
Okay, so you should be looking for the data, you should be asking for the data and the evidence. Okay, we've got time for one more question. The lady was just before you, I'm very sorry. There you go, yeah. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Sarah from Department for Energy, Security, Net Zero.
Just hold the mic nice and close.
Hi.
Yeah.
Sarah from the Department for Energy, Security, Net Zero. I work on the public sector decarbonisation scheme, and I'm interested to hear how transferable a lot of these technologies and supply chain is to the non-domestic sector, and also something we've seen in the public sector decarbonisation scheme is rising costs, and it's almost counterintuitive. We've been spending more and more money, and the cost of technology is going up. I know there are some wider factors, but any ideas or kind of things that would be useful from government to incentivise lower costs over time?
Okay, so we'll take a comment from each of you on that. So the broad themes are how transferable are technologies between domestic and non-domestic, and then how do we actually get the cost of these down with scale without there being scale right now, I think. So Justine first.
I guess I don't really have as much of a view, to be honest, on the non-domestic side, but in terms of cost, a couple of the key things that we see is, one, trying to figure out which parts of the process can be a template. So for instance, archetype level design. What bit can you do that is transferable versus what you need to keep doing each time for a new property? And also being able to make most of these kind of off-site efficiencies. Ultra panel, are looking into the future and looking at, needing something like 3,000 odd properties to get down to sub 20,000 for a house wrap. I mean, that is incredible, but that is basically prototyping, piloting, having a process to scale. So definitely possible.
Come to Nik next.
Yeah, I think for commercial or non-domestic property, the way it should be positioned is around the payback, because clearly they're going to be investing in the commercial upgrades, and actually there's a good payback with most of these technologies, particularly like lighting or heating. There's lots of finance out there for doing sort of commercial upgrades and commercial retrofit projects. Many of the clients will actually do it through their facilities management provider as well, and most of those will fund it on the basis that they'll get it paid back. For a supply chain, it is quite different. So at Plentific, we have a supply chain of domestic contractors, but we're now starting to build a commercial supply chain as well, and learning as we go, because there's lots of commercial systems and qualifications, regulations that don't apply to domestic. So it is quite a challenge. It's not going to be the same supply chain that would deliver both commercial and domestic.
Okay, sorry, we're out of time. Just keep your comments as brief as you can, please.
I would just say some of them are really, really transferable. Things like the solid wall solutions we were talking about, the insulation. We only focus on domestic at the moment, but I think the next step will be to apply those technologies to a commercial unit. M&E is a bit more difficult, so not as easily as transferable. But I think things like insulation, the easy stuff. There's even the survey process we were talking about could be transferred to larger units and commercial units.
You have the last word.
Yeah, just quickly for me, it's definitely kind of around about the level of investment that we're going to be making, so kind of understanding and getting the measures right at the kind of outset, so that we can actually demonstrate what the return on that investment's going to be as well. So, yeah.
Okay, fantastic, thank you. We're out of time now, but that's been a really fascinating session. I think that my takeaway is that what I thought of the future is actually today, which is really encouraging to see some of those technologies. And there's so much innovative activity and so much entrepreneurship coming out of Founders Factory and Carbon 13 and other things. So we need to do more around that. We'll do what we can. Thank you very much to our speakers and for you coming along. We have another session following on in the near future, so hope you can join us for that. Thank you.